Hey everybody, in this video, we're going to kill your character.
Okay, so maybe killing your character, but what we're really talking about are different ways for your character to permanently leave the party.
Yeah, who knows what's going on. Maybe you're going on deployment for 6 months, or maybe you got a new job, or maybe you just have decided that you want to play in a different game, or you just don't have the time, or you had a kid, or whatever the reasons are. Things happen.
Yeah, or you want to keep playing with this group, but for whatever reason, the character you're playing right now just isn't working.
And maybe you're going to ultimately introduce a new character. Whatever the reasons are, you want to get rid of your character. And there's a few different options of how to do that. One of them's definitely you can just go ahead and kill the character. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But some of the other ways of killing off your character, getting them out of the party, we've actually had some pretty good experience with in our campaigns. And the first one is just retirement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had this happen with Tala in our Shadowrun game. She had reached a point of she kind of didn't really need to be a runner anymore. Mm-hmm. She also had a lot of issues that she was dealing with being a runner, and so she got an opportunity that wasn't great, but solved the issues she was having to kind of indentured servant work for a corporation, and she figured, hey, I can get out of this, but in the meantime, this solves the issues I'm having. And so she just said farewell to the group, retired, and lived out the rest of her life.
And I remember in that it wasn't necessarily that you were looking to try to play a new character or leave the group. It was just your character had sort of done what they were in the life to do. And so it made sense for the character to just retire and get out of the life and do something new with their life.
Yeah.
And so just that idea of retirement. Your character is proud of the work that they've done. Maybe they're going to buy that in with all of the gold that they've been saving up, or buy their own small starship freighter with all of the Imperial credits that they've earned. Whatever it is, your character's proud of what they've done. They recognize their life as an adventurer, and they're moving on to something else. So that's one way of getting rid of them. Retirement.
Another way you might approach it is that your character has become disillusioned with adventuring and has decided this just isn't the life for me anymore.
Yeah, and who knows why this might have happened. Maybe your character wanted to kill the Cyclops that murdered the rest of their family, and you finally did it, and they realize revenge doesn't solve anything, and what have I gotten into, and there's so much blood on my hands, I can't do this anymore, and they walk off into the sunset. Or whatever it might be. Maybe they had always been wanting to prove themselves to their mom, to say that they could run the family business, but after blowing up a bunch of other starships and taking out the competition, they realize they don't even want to do that anymore, and they just have to get out of the life. They walk off and they leave it all behind. It's not necessarily retirement because your character's not proud of what they've done.
Yeah, it's more of like leaving in disgrace than leaving with pride.
Yeah, and and this is, I'm sure, a moment that's full of role play and some dice rolls and things like that, where it's like, oh, well, we're your new family and you can stick with us. But remember, as the player, you want to get rid of this character. So you can pay honor to those character moments, but still know at the end of the day, your character's going to walk away. And that's, I guess, maybe an easy one to go into the third one, which is just your character decides to go your own way.
So if they've been given an opportunity to stay and help a certain community or go off and achieve something on their own that really the whole group can't all go do this. Like, I have to go follow this, if you're a cleric or a paladin, following something that your god wants you to do, but it doesn't make sense for the rest of the group. So it's the continuing an adventuring life, but just on your own.
Yeah, Sondheim, one of my Shadowrun characters, did this. Like, Sondheim was not a good person, And they had like tasted power, and then we sort of planes shifted, and he realized that he could stay in this plane, which was closer tied to magic, and he was honestly trying to become a Shadowrun equivalent of a lich. Not a good person, but he decided to stay there in order to pursue his own sense of power. And all of the rest of the party, they weren't going to stay there whatsoever. He wanted to branch out.
And I think, again, there are going to be some heavy roleplay moments, and you can acknowledge, like, if the other characters don't want your character to stay or to leave, acknowledge and let those moments play out, but, you know, ultimately, that's not going to change your character's mind.
All right, so now let's get to the teaser clickbait of this episode, killing your character. They're dead. All right, so how do we approach that? Easy. They run into a building and they act like a chaotic asshole and they're dead, and now you roll up something new. All right, so if you really like this video, thanks for...
We're kidding.
Okay,
We're kidding.
No, that is one option. I do not think it is a best option.
No. So I think a caveat before we get into the options is, especially with wanting to kill off your character, but also just any way that your character leaves, I think it's good to clue in your game master, your dungeon master, ahead of time to say, hey, I as a player need to leave the game for whatever reason, or I want to keep playing, but I want this character to leave. That way the game master can plan out to give your character those opportunities, and especially if you know whether it's I want them to retire versus I want the character to die, they can help to set up and put those kind of strings in place for then your character to pull.
Absolutely, and this comes down to the advice that we give in so many of these videos between players and game masters or dungeon masters. Have open communication. You also might want to decide if you want to have this conversation with one or all of the members of the players of your group, not necessarily in their character, but with the players, and say, hey, I think that my character might end up being in a situation where they're going to die or they're going to have to leave. Because hopefully your group is good enough that they're not going to metagame this, but understand that you've made the choice to kill your character. That choice was made for the other players in your party, and they are going to need a grieving process to go through and a time to acclimate. And so just being like a good player, and maybe you want to clue them in.
And also then the players can make choices for their characters that can kind of help move that along.
And making it clear, I don't want to be resurrected. That's an important thing to say. If you know you want to play a new character, but then everyone else in your party resurrects your guy, well, that's a problem. Or you know that you're leaving and they're resurrected and now there's a player character but no player, that's tough. Talk to people. Talk to your GM. And talk to the other members of your character, of your party. All right, let's kill them. Let's figure it out. There's a lot of different ways for your characters to die, but we're going to break it down into two sort of large umbrella categories. One, the death in battle, and two, the heroic sacrifice. So when I'm talking about, the death in battle, that's probably not too hard to figure out. Maybe everybody's going up against an ancient black dragon, or you've got the equivalent of the trench run on the Death Star, or a one-on-one duel with the big bad evil person. It's the idea of this is a battle, it's going to end in combat, and whether or not the bad guy lives or the mission is successful, you've had the conversation that you want to be allowed the opportunity that maybe your character doesn't survive. They get a mortal wound, or their ship blows up, or something like that. And this goes back to what you were talking about. Communicate with your GM.
Yeah, your GM can kind of set up the hey, maybe I will throw in a CR rating that's higher than I usually would because it's going to be a deadly battle. And they might choose something of okay, yeah, this is the type of thing that would be especially hard for whatever your specific character to fight.
Yeah.
Or, you have a vulnerability to their strength, it's going to set up that opportunity that your character's just going to die in battle.
And maybe it's a really narrative thing where on the way out, or you get the killing blow and the bad guy's hit points are reduced to 0, but your GM knows that's it wants to have happen, and so then they narrate the idea that it's like, yeah, you raise your broadsword in the air and you invoke, the Wild Mother, and it bursts into beautiful radiant light as the dragon snaps its maw down around you, and everyone can see that you're cleanly bitten in half, but your sword pokes through the top of its head and it falls over defeated. Narrating this moment, your character didn't make it, but the battle is still won. Or your character didn't make it and the battle wasn't won, and the rest of the group can pursue in an act of vengeance for their fallen party member.
Mm-hmm. Or run away.
Yeah, or run away. That's probably not a bad idea either, especially if they've killed a party member. The other one is this idea of sort of the heroic sacrifice, which seems really like attractive to certain types of players, but maybe isn't always the best option.
I think it can be when it's set up well.
Mm-hmm.
It can work really well. It's the heroic sacrifice when there didn't need to be one that kind of comes across as like you're just looking for opportunities to kill off your character.
Yeah.
But if it's something like the game master is set up like, okay, there's a bomb that somebody has to be here, pushing the button every 4 seconds in order to keep it from exploding and ruining, blowing up the entire ship while everybody else makes it to the escape pod. You can have that role play of why your character is the one who says, no, I'm going to stay, I'm going to do this, everybody else get off the ship. I will keep the bomb from going off until you're all safe.
And because you had your conversation with your GM, they know to give you that opportunity. And because you had the conversation with the other members of your party, they know that they can role play it in character, that they don't want to lose you. But also as players, they're like, yeah, no, but you're leaving. You're moving across the country. We've got to let you do this. Mm-hmm. So wonderful what happens when you openly communicate and listen and have a conversation. So yeah, whether it's dying in battle or it's a heroic sacrifice, or whether it's the death of a character from the storyline through retirement or wandering off into the desert or simply deciding this isn't the life for them, there you have some really good ways. They're satisfying for you as a player and for the storyline to kill off your character.
All right, so if you've had an experience of purposely killing or retiring a character, let us know how you did it down in the comments below, if it was one of the examples we gave, or if you had a completely different way of doing it. Let's chat more down in the comments.
A big thanks to all of our patrons, and especially to Joan. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the different perks of being a patron.
All right, so I really hope that you enjoyed this video. We put videos out every Tuesday, and pretty often we'll get a bonus video, a second video out throughout the week. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, all of the socials. That's where you're going to find out where those bonus videos come from. But until next time, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dawn.
And this is Roll for Initiative.
Bye.
Bye.
Hold on just a sec. I'm going to kill the PC.